Grijalva.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman from Arizona may use as much time as he wishes to use.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This week, the majority advanced a bill that would block the administration from implementing the extreme buffer zone rule intended to protect waterways from the impacts of mountaintop removal coal mining, and adding to the list of their attacks on the environment. House Republicans ignore the fact that Americans want clean water, clean skies, and more, not less, national parks and national monuments, because now they are forcing a vote on H.R. 1459, a bill that will make it harder for presidents to create new national monuments, adding layers upon layers of duplicative oversight and unnecessary congressional review. This is not what our constituents are asking Congress to do. It's simply another attempt by the majority to stall the protection of federal land. In its 100-year history, the Antiquities Act has been used by 16 out of 19 presidents. In fact, Teddy Roosevelt used it to protect the Grand Canyon, and over half our national parks started out as national monuments. Congress should not be diluting this popular tool or making it more difficult for future presidents to set land aside and honor our shared history, but that is exactly what this legislation is trying to do. There are two ways to create a new national monument. Congress can pass a law, or the President can use the Antiquities Act. As we all know, it's becoming increasingly difficult to pass a law even for popular bipartisan conservation measures. Bills languish in Congress for years, and the Antiquity Act is often the only way to move some of these projects across the goal line. The majority will refute this by pointing the finger at the Senate, blaming the other side of the hill for inaction, and highlighting their own track record of passing bills out of the House. That is a smokescreen. They have only moved a fraction of the conservation bills sitting before the House. Many do not even get a subcommittee hearing, and some of these proposals have been around for 10 years. Democrats, we are very pleased to create new wilderness in the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. Don't get me wrong, this is a good legislation, but passing one standalone wilderness bill, one national monument, and one new national park bill in 3 years is not proof that Congress can do the work of conserving land and creating national monuments. For example, I introduced a bill to establish a national monument in my district that would honor and recognize land considered sacred by Native American communities in the Southwest. It's an area full of ancient petroglyphs, increasingly under threat for looting and vandalism. A national monument designation will ensure that these cultural treasures receive the level of protection that they deserve. This proposal is supported by the National Congress of American Indians and every tribe in Arizona. Like many of my colleagues with similar national monument proposals, I am unable to get even a hearing on that particular bill. If the majority is truly concerned about public input or congressional review of national monuments and conservation of federal land, why don't they consider bills to establish new monuments, parks, heritage areas, or wilderness? Nearly 100 conservation designated bills have been introduced in the last two Congresses. 4 have become law. This track record doesn't prove that we need more congressional review. On the contrary, if the majority is so eager to apply NEPA to the Antiquities Act, why are they trying to limit its scope for other activities on public lands? In the Natural Resources Committee alone, the majority has considered and advanced measures to limit public review for timber operations, mining activity, and oil and gas leasing. Following this logic, there is too much review when foreign corporations want to extract American taxpayer-owned national resources, but not enough when we set aside land for future generations. House Republicans have attempted to rewrite California water law, undermine the Endangered Species Act, and blow up the steam buffer rule, and encourage state and private takeover of federal land, a trust owned by all of the American people. Putting up barriers to presidential proclamations of national monuments as envisioned by H.R. 1459 is just another feather in the anti-environmental cap. H.R. 1459 will set up arbitrary per-state limits on presidential monument designations and require congressional review of any monument under 5,000 acres. Monuments over 5,000 acres won't have to be approved by Congress, but they would be delayed by a process intended to evaluate the environmental impact on major federal actions. I hate to break it to the majority, but the conservation and the establishment of national monuments don't have the same footprint as open pit mines and oil wells. Republicans want us to believe that this bill is about protecting private property. The Antiquity Act only applies to federal land. Let me repeat, only applies to federal land. If there are some concerned about people who have inholdings within that federal land, why are they standing in the way of federal land acquisition and depriving those property owners who are willing sellers the right to sell? H.R. 1459 is a wasteful and duplicative piece of legislation that will, like most bills passed out of this House, have no chance of ever becoming law. I urge my colleagues to oppose H.R. 1459, and I reserve the remainder of our time.
Gentleman from Arizona.